And the principle in neuroscience says that nerve cells that fire together wire together. So if you insist on thinking the same old thoughts, making the same choices, demonstrating the same behaviors, creating the same experiences that stamp and emboss the same networks of neurons into the same patterns, all for the familiar feeling you call you. You keep firing and wiring those circuits over and over again, you begin to hardwire your brain into a very finite signature, that box in the brain. The most commonly fired, neurologically wired set of thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that's acquired through frequent repetition becomes the habit of yourself. And it's just like a box in the brain. And the redundancy of that cycle causes us to become a memorized set of unconscious attitudes, automatic habits and behaviors, emotional reactions, beliefs, perceptions, and attitudes that function like a subconscious computer program. So thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. And as people get caught in this cycle of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking, over time, they condition their body to memorize that emotion as well as the conscious mind. And whenever the body knows as well as the mind, that's called a habit. A habit is when your body is the mind. Now, 95% of who you are by the time you're 35 years old is a set of memorized behaviors, set of emotional reactions, beliefs, perceptions, attitudes that run just like a computer program. So 5% of your conscious mind begins to work against 95% of what you've memorized. So the person wants to think positively, but they're feeling negatively. They want to create their dream board, and put up their future life, but they feel unworthy. That's mind and body in opposition. We have to recondition the body to a new mind.
It's not enough to think positively, because you can think positively with the 5% of your conscious mind, but we're programmed subconsciously to feel negative, right? So mind and body are in opposition. And so the work is, if your personality creates your personal reality, and then your personality is made of how you think, how you act, and how you feel, then the first step to change, to truly change, is kind of uncluttering ourselves from those programs. And we've discovered, based on our research, is the best way to do that is to become conscious of those unconscious thoughts.
If I'm talking to you and you're thinking about where you're going to go for lunch and who you're going to go with and how you're going to get there, and I'm talking to you, you left the present moment and your attention went to some future, and your energy will go down and you won't be able to comprehend what I said. If you start thinking about what you should have said at the staff meeting 3 days ago, and I'm talking to you and your mind is back in the past, you're siphoning energy out of the present moment into the past. So people are constantly siphoning their energy into a familiar past or a predictable future, because that's where their attention is. And the stronger the emotions that we feel to certain problems and conditions in our life, the more we pay attention to them. So we give our power away to our ex, we give our power away to that big problem, and that's creative energy that we should be able to use to create a new future.
Extraordinary quality of life means having an extraordinary quality of emotion, because our emotions control what we feel, obviously, but also what we do. When you're pissed off, you behave very differently than when you're feeling playful, or when you're feeling driven, or whether you're concerned or caring or warm or loving, again, or frustrated. So our emotions change it all. That's really what I help people change, like a muscle, over day and night of doing things until it's automatic. You don't have to think about it.
It's important for us to, in the morning or the evening, instead of reaching for our cell phone as the first thing, as a habit that we do, and checking our texts and our WhatsApp and our Telegram and our social media and our Instagram and our Twitter and Facebook and whatever else people do, their emails, they get connected to everything known in their life. Before you start that, try this out as an experiment before you start your day. Instead of falling into that redundant habit, go on autopilot, just say, okay, if the change is to be greater than my body, to be greater than my environment, be greater than time, and the environment's so seductive, and my body's craving certain emotions, and it's programmed to get up and do things, I'm gonna sit my body down, I'm gonna tame the animal here. And when I'm ready to get up, we're gonna get up, not when it's tired or when it wants to go. And if you were sitting there in silence, aware of nothing but you, and you said, okay, what is the greatest expression of myself I can be today?
If you close your eyes and you place your attention on your heart, by paying attention to your heart, you're actually giving it your energy. Now do something really cool. Amplify. That's the amplifier. What do you want to feel? Like, what emotion do you want to feel when a future experience happens? Whatever that is. Feel the gratitude, feel the joy, feel the freedom, and breathe and feel and breathe, and keep relaxing into your heart, keeping your attention nowhere else out of the millions of things you can put your attention on. That's your target. There'll come a moment where that energy will naturally start moving up to the brain. When that happens, the survival centers shut down, brain moves into alpha, you see more in pictures and images. The heart sends this propagating wave right into the brain, telling the brain to be creative, to dream, to be unlimited. The more you do it, the more it becomes a skill. We tend to be more present and appreciative when we're truly in this state. And when the heart beats in rhythm, it produces a very profound magnetic field that's up to 3 meters wide, right? So you got this broadband base that tends to be magnetic, and you have a coherent brain which tends to be electric. So the thought becomes the electrical charge, the directive. You send the signal out into whatever it is that you want into the field. You got to feel a feeling before it happens in the quantum. You get a coherent heart, and you begin to draw the experience to you. So when there's a vibrational match between your energy and some possibility that exists in the quantum field that you haven't experienced yet, the cool thing about it is now we don't have to go anywhere and do something to get it. You do that in three-dimensional reality when you're matter trying to change matter. When you're creating from the field in connection instead of from matter, the events tend to come to you instead of you going to get them.
What most people do is they say, I want the new house, the new car, the new relationship, and then they visualize that. But when they visualize it, they never get in touch with how it would feel if it happened. They're hypnotized into feeling the emotion when it happens. So they may do a little meditation and they open their eyes and their senses say it's not there. Yeah. What do? They experience more lack. Yeah. You have to truly change them. Close your eyes, disconnect from the environment, sit your body down, don't get up and do anything. And now, teach your body emotionally what that future feels like before it happens. Mm-hmm. You have to stay in the feeling of that future in order for you to be aligned to that destiny. When there's a vibrational match between your energy and it's synchronized with some potential in the quantum field, you no longer have to go anywhere to get it. You're going to begin to draw events or experience to you, and they're going to come in a way that you cannot predict. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. So if you've taken all of your attention off of everything material, there's only one place you're going to wind up, and that is the immaterial realm called the quantum field, an invisible field of energy that unifies and connects everything material. So now when you're creating from the field and you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you actually no longer have to go anywhere to get it. You will draw the experience to you.
What are the most powerful elements of a gratitude practice? What are the triggers? What are the tactics? What are the way markers that you're saying this is something that you should be really focused on when it comes to your gratitude practice?
I think the first step is changing your physiology. I think there's levels of gratitude that you could feel, but you have to stop feeling other things first in order to feel it. So I don't think it's enough, and I'm just saying this for myself. It's not enough for me to feel gratitude for 5 minutes and then spend the rest of my day feeling miserable. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to sustain that state for an extended period of time. I want to get really good at doing it with my eyes open. So I believe that if I'm walking around in a state of gratitude with my eyes open and I can sustain that state for an extended period of time, there should be opportunities coming to me as the result of my change in energy.
We decided to do an experiment. We took 117 people and we said, listen, we want you to stop feeling those emotions just for 3 times a day for 15 minutes. We're just going to practice feeling a different emotion. Yeah, I know, but I can't feel it. I know you can't feel it now because you're really good at feeling that other stuff. But if we work with you, just work with us. Turns out 10, 15 minutes of gratitude 2 or 3 times a day, their immune system strengthened by 50%. They made the most robust immunoglobulin, immunoglobulin A, which is the primary defense against bacteria and viruses. The body's getting a boost. There's an internal army now. And it turns out that when that occurs, a lot of pain and inflammation goes away and a lot of immune-mediated conditions, from cancer all the way to food allergies and everything in between. So we found out that your thoughts could actually make you well.
If you can sustain and maintain a modified state of mind and body your entire day and keep your energy up, get ready, because something unusual is going to happen in your life. It's the law.
And I know it from experience it, and I've witnessed it too many times. And it will come in a way that you least expect. Why? Because if you can expect it, it's nothing new. If you can predict it, it's more the same. It's got to be a surprise. It's got to rock your world. It's got to catch you off guard, and it has to leave no doubt that what you did inside of you produced some effect outside of you. And when you can correlate the changes you made inside of you with the effect you produced outside of you, you're going to pay attention to what you did, and you're going to do it again. And that's when we go from being a victim to being a creator. Our data shows that if you don't expect anything to occur, the unexpected happens 100% of the time. And when that unexpected happens, we look at the brains of those people. They look like they're on psilocybin. They look like they're on a hallucinogenic, and yet they're not taking anything. Their brain just looks like they're in a whole mystical world. It's kind of cool.
I will do good no matter what. No matter what happens to me, I will do good. No matter what happens to me. It's absolute rejection of the idea of being a victim. It's like, no matter how much suffering comes my way, no matter how much undeserved suffering comes my way, undeserved and unjust, let's say, in spite of my innocence, I will not lose faith, and I will do good.
I always tell my children that your personality creates your personal reality. And if you want to change something in your life, then on a fundamental level, you have to look at the thoughts you're thinking to see if they're serving you. Notice the behaviors that you're demonstrating and see if those are loving to yourself. And begin to look at the emotions that you've memorized that become part of your identity. And children begin to understand this very naturally, because the law with children that I've believed from the time my children were very young is that if you give them the facts, they will interpret the laws. So because of mirror neurons, your children are paying attention to more of what you do than what you say. So you can't say to your kids, clean your room, and have a messy room. You understand? Because they're gonna look at your room subconsciously, automatically. And I was doing an interview for this book. Someone was interviewing me for this book, and they said, can you tell me about the terrible twos? I said, it's really simple. What do you do the first year of your child's life? Oh, look how cute he is. Look how cute she is. Look. Oh, and then all of a sudden at 1 year old, what happens? They stand up, right? And they stand up and their brain is so neuroplastic and they go, wow, look at this vase. I wonder how it's made. Oh, it holds water. And then the child begins to interact with the environment out of curiosity, pulling things, breaking things, and then what do? No! No! And you do that for a whole year, and then you say at 2 years old, put your shoes on, and what's the child say? No! That's mirror neurons. It's only mirroring behavior. So we know then that children pay attention because of those mirror neurons, more based on what they observe than what they're told.
We've all probably caught ourselves at one time or another doing or saying something and then realizing I'm starting to act just like my father. I don't know about you, but this realization scared the heck out of me. What are the chances that you will ultimately behave and act just like your parents? This is a legitimate, important question. If conscious awareness only activates our genetically pre-patterned neural network of synaptic connections, we probably will think the same thoughts, feel the same feelings, and act just like our parents at different points in our life. Those inherited synaptic circuits will become so strongly wired by the repetitive firing that will be naturally predisposed by our genetic propensities to be of the same mind as our mother and father. Whether we have inherited the wiring for anger, victimization, or insecurity from the genetic code of our lineage. Because our parents have remembered, practiced, and mastered those circuits to produce the same repeatable experiences, if these cells continue to fire together, then they will develop stronger and more intricately refined synaptic connections. Our consciousness tends to live in the part of the brain where those familiar circuits hold the reins. People often operate as if they have only one option for behavior. We've all heard folks say, hey, that's just me. That's just who I am. More correctly, given what we know about the role genetics plays, they should say, hey, this is
just me choosing to activate the circuits I have inherited from my mother and father. Because my brain possesses neuroplastic qualities, I've developed some of my own neural nets. But for now, I'm choosing to go with what has been present from the beginning. That's just who I am. After studying this phenomenon, I began to realize that, theoretically, if we don't make any new synaptic connections in our life, we can rely only on our inherited synaptic connections, and that leads to a mind expressing only our genetic predispositions. How can we add instead to what we are given? How can we add to the trillions of possible combinations, sequences, and patterns of synaptic connections to upgrade the hardware of our brain? Mathematically, based on potential combinations and permutations, if we just add a few synaptic connections to the existing matrix, we will add many new possible directions in which our brain can fire in novel, sophisticated sequences and patterns. Our genetic inheritance is not the end-all, but only the initial deposit of our neurological capital. In order to evolve ourselves and our species, we must be able to add to and modify what we were initially given. Our ability to express a greater sense of self results from adding our own synaptic connections in response to our environment and utilizing our brain's plasticity. Both play a crucial role in helping us form these connections.
I think anybody who is alive right now, who is engaged in life, has noticed a quickening taking place. In other words, everybody feels like more things are happening in a shorter amount of time. So there's an acceleration, and time is a construct in our mind. There's no circuitry, there's no hardware in our brain to be able to understand time. It's a construct based on our past and how we predict the future. But information is so readily available in our world right now that in an age of information, ignorance is a choice. So you don't need an authority to gain information any longer. You don't need a priest. You don't need a governor. You don't need a doctor. You don't need a teacher. You can access information at your fingertips. So then as you begin to discern the information with discernment, the proper and right information, you begin to develop some type of empowerment, because all of a sudden you're seeing possibilities that you never saw before without that information. So you wake up, you become more aware. So the knowledge creates awareness, awareness creates consciousness, consciousness and energy are connected. So there's a change in energy globally going on with the world. Now that knowledge and that change of energy has effects on paradigms that are no longer a vibrational match with that new level of consciousness. So you see a political systems unraveling. You see economic systems unraveling. They're unspiraling, they're unraveling. They can't sustain themselves with this new energy. You see journalism, the environment, education, religion, medicine. It's all unraveling because something greater has to come as a result of a change in consciousness. Now, no victims here, because when you and I negotiated from a soul level to be here at this time. This is the time we've been waiting for. This is where it's happening in the Milky Way. It's happening here because there's a true coming of a new consciousness. It's not one person that's coming. It's a group, it's a collective consciousness that's emerging. And emergence is one mind, one heart. And the way you control people is you give them misinformation based on emotions. You control people by controlling their emotions. And media and television and advertisement is a great seduction, that people can watch the news and get really angry, then change the channel and watch a football game and get very excited, then change the channel and watch a sitcom and laugh, and change the channel and watch a drama, and you can change your emotional state because of technology. So then it means then most people are relying consciously or subconsciously on things outside of them to make them feel a certain way. And so my interest is to provide the proper content of information scientifically to people
so that they reason that this is actually possible. Then to give them the opportunity to experience that philosophy and get their behaviors to match their intentions, as many ways as I can. Now, if I do that properly, people are going to have new experiences. The experiences are going to change the circuitry in their brain. Learning makes connections, but experience enriches connections. The end product of an experience is an emotion. So when you start feeling worthy, when you start feeling a love for yourself, when you start feeling a love for life, when you start feeling truly grateful, the moment you feel that emotion, you're teaching your body to understand what your mind has understood. If we choose to rely solely on our inherited circuits, we develop the habit of being our genetics. What is the alternative? There are two ways we make new synaptic connections in the brain. The first is to learn new things. The second way is to have new experiences. Every time we learn new knowledge or information, the brain changes. When we embrace a novel experience, the brain also records it as a new pattern of neurological circuits. Therefore, if we seldom learn new things and have hardly any novel experiences throughout our lifetime, the fewer the synaptic connections we will make. For the most part, our conscious awareness will be limited to using those initial neural networks from our genetic lineage with which to produce the mind. According to Hebb's model, when we fire the same genetically inherited circuits over and over again, then we wire ourselves to live out only our predetermined genetic destiny. Put another way, if we repeat the same familiar, predictable routine and automatic actions, thoughts, habits, and behaviors, our brain will remain at status quo. And if we accept the fire together, wire together theorem, then it will only make sense that those connections will become more hardwired by the repeated activation of the same neural nets. We will not evolve our brain to any large degree. The way out, in order to escape our genetic propensities, is to continually learn new information and have new experiences. Typically, when we have acquired new knowledge, we say, I learned something new today. What do we really mean when we say we know or have learned something? Generally, this means that we have been exposed to factual data, have committed that information to memory, and can recall it when necessary or when asked. What this means neurologically is that we have organized a series of synaptic circuits into a neural network, which stores that concept. The mere process of learning a new idea and storing that fact as a memory in the brain leaves a mark of that thought in our living neurological tissue.
And wouldn't you agree then, if you were changing a habit, whether you wanted to lose weight or stop smoking or stop eating chocolate, whatever people do, you're going to have to look at the things that cause you to return back to the same choice. And you're going to review in your mind, oh my gosh, I know that little devil's going to come up and say, go ahead, start tomorrow. Chocolate's good for you. It's all right. Everybody else is eating it, And you have to become selective about that thought's going to come up, and you have to overcome that thought. Would you agree? Because that thought's going to lead to the same choice, right? So you have to review in your mind who you no longer want to be. And then you're going to have to observe your behaviors. And as you begin to observe your behaviors, you're going to have to make a decision with such firm intention that the amplitude of that decision carries a level of energy that's greater than the hardwired programs in your brain and the emotional addiction or memory in your body. And your body responds to a new mind. It gets a rush of energy. And when it gets that rush of energy, you're giving it a sampling of the future. You're grabbing the reins of the stallion and you're pulling those reins in and you're saying, I'm the boss. And the body, the animal, begins to respond to your mind. And then you have to look at the emotions, the feelings that you look forward to, whether it's guilt or shame or unworthiness, that's become so familiar, you don't even know that you're feeling that way. It just feels like you. And you have to decide then, does this emotion belong in my future? Do I want to bring this into my future? Because as long as I'm living by this emotion, I'm living in my past. So then as you begin to observe those states of mind and body, you begin to objectify your subjective self. And just like viewing a videotape of yourself playing baseball, playing tennis, dancing a dance, speaking publicly, whatever it is. If you can observe yourself, it means you can self-correct better. Wouldn't you agree? So then the process of change then is becoming conscious of your unconscious self. And when you begin to decide every day who you no longer want to be, you are retiring the old self. And the body will crave the emotional payoff just like an addiction. And you have to understand that that's the biological, neurological, chemical, hormonal, physiological, genetic death of the old self. And when you begin to understand that, you can work then in creating a new self. And you can begin to emotionally give your body a taste of the future ahead of the actual event. And as we said last night, the emotional signature is exactly what signals the gene. Because the body does not know the difference between the actual experience in your life that creates the emotion and the emotion that you're fabricating by thought alone. To the body, it's the same. Every time you learn something new, you make new connections in your brain. That's what learning is. Learning is forging new synaptic connections. And as you begin to leave imprints in your neurological tissue as a result of your interaction in the environment, the next thing is that you're going to have an opportunity then to apply that information, to personalize it, to demonstrate it. And a certain group of people will get their behaviors to match their intentions. To get their actions equal to their thoughts, they'll step out into the unknown and they'll try it. And when they do, they'll have a new experience. An experience then enriches the brain, reorganizing more circuits than what you understood physiologically. But the moment those neurons string into place, the brain makes a chemical, and that chemical is called a feeling or an emotion. And the moment you feel unlimited, the moment you feel like a patient parent, the moment you feel abundant, the moment you feel free, now you are teaching your body chemically to understand what your mind has intellectually understood. So we can say knowledge is for the mind and experience is for the body. And in that moment, you're beginning to embody the truth of that philosophy, of that theory. And you're literally signaling new genes in new ways. And you are rewriting your biological program. But if you've done it once, it must mean you can do it again. And if you can repeat any experience over and over again, you are going to neurochemically condition your mind and body to begin to work as one. And when you've done something so many times that the body now knows how to do it as well as the mind, now it's becoming innate in you. It's second nature. It's easy. It's familiar. It's who you are. As a matter of fact, you've practiced it so many times that you don't even have to consciously think about it because it's becoming a subconscious program. So our job is to go from philosopher to initiate to master, from knowledge to experience to wisdom, from mind to body to soul, from thinking to doing to being, to learning it with your head, practicing it with your hands, and knowing it by heart.
The next step in breaking the habit of being ourselves is understanding how important it is to get the mind and body working together and to break the chemical continuity of our guilty, ashamed, angry, depressed state of being, resisting the body's demand to restore that old unhealthy order isn't easy, but help is only a thought away. It is essential to unmemorize an emotion that has become part of your personality and then to recondition the body to a new mind. It's easy to feel hopeless when we realize that the chemistry of our emotions has habituated our bodies to a state of being that is too often a product of anger, jealousy, resentment, sadness, and so forth. After all, I've said that these programs, these propensities, are buried in our subconscious. The good news is that we can become consciously aware of these tendencies. For now, I hope you can accept that to change your personality, you need to change your state of being. which is intimately connected to feelings that you've memorized. Just as negative emotions can become embedded in the operating system of your subconscious, so can positive ones. At one time or another, we've all consciously declared, I want to be happy. But until the body is instructed otherwise, it's going to continue expressing those programs of guilt or sadness or anxiety. The conscious intellectual mind may reason that it wants joy, but the body has been programmed to feel otherwise for years. We stand on a soapbox proclaiming change to be in our best interest, but on a visceral level, we can't seem to bring up the feeling of true happiness. That's because mind and body aren't working together. The conscious mind wants one thing, but the body wants another. If you've been devoted to feeling negatively for years, those feelings have created an automatic state of being. We could say that you are subconsciously unhappy, right? Your body has been conditioned to be negative. It knows how to be unhappy better than your conscious mind knows otherwise. You don't even have to think about how to be negative. You just know that it's how you are. How can your conscious mind control this attitude in the subconscious? Some maintain that positive thinking is the answer. I want to be clear that by itself, positive thinking never works. Many so-called positive thinkers have felt negative most of their lives, and now they're trying to think positively. They're in a polarized state in which they're trying to think one way in order to override how they feel inside of them. They consciously think one way, but they are being the opposite. When the mind and body are in opposition, change will never happen. By definition, emotions are the end products of past experiences in life. When you're in the midst of an experience, the brain receives vital information from the external environment through 5 different sensory pathways: sight, smell, sound, taste, and touch. As that cumulative sensory data reaches the brain and is processed, networks of neurons arrange themselves into specific patterns reflecting the external event. The moment those nerve cells string into place, the brain releases chemicals. Those chemicals are called an emotion or a feeling. I use the words feelings and emotions interchangeably because they are close enough for our understanding. When those emotions begin to chemically flood your body, you detect a change in your internal order. You're thinking and feeling differently than you were moments before. Naturally, when you notice this change in your internal state, you'll pay attention to whoever or whatever in your external environment caused that change. When you can identify whatever it was in your outer world that caused your internal change, that event in and of itself is called a memory. Neurologically and chemically, you encode that environmental information into your brain and body. Thus, you can remember experiences better because you recall how they felt at the time they happened. Feelings and emotions are a chemical record of past experiences. For example, your boss arrives for your performance review. You notice immediately that he looks red-faced, even irritated. As he starts speaking in a loud voice, you smell garlic on his breath. He accuses you of undermining him in front of other employees and says he has passed you over for a promotion. In this moment, you feel jittery, weak in the knees, and queasy, and your heart is racing. You feel fearful, betrayed, and angry. All of the cumulative sensory information, everything you're smelling, seeing, feeling, and hearing, is changing your internal state. You associate that external experience with a change in how you're feeling internally, and it brands you emotionally. You go home and repeatedly review this experience in your mind. Every time you do, you remind yourself of the accusing, intimidating look on your employer's face, how he yelled at you, what he said, and even how he smelled. Then you once again feel fearful and angry. You produce the same chemistry in your brain and body as if the performance review is still happening, because your body believes it is experiencing the same event again and again. You are conditioning it to live in the past. Let's reason this a bit further. Think of your body as the unconscious mind or as an objective servant that takes orders from your consciousness. It is so objective that it doesn't know the difference between the emotions that are created from experiences in your external world and those you fabricate in your internal world by thought alone. To the body, they are the same. What if this cycle of thinking and feeling that you were betrayed continues for years on end? If you keep dwelling on that experience with your boss or reliving those familiar feelings day in and day out, you continually signal your body with chemical feelings that it associates with the past. This chemical continuity fools the body into believing that it is still re-experiencing the past. So the body keeps reliving the same emotional experience. When your memorized thoughts and feelings consistently force your body to be in the past, we could say that the body becomes the memory of the past. If those memorized feelings of betrayal have been driving your thoughts for years, then your body has been living in the past 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. In time, your body is anchored in the past. You know that when you repeatedly recreate the same emotions until you cannot think any greater than how you feel, your feelings are now the means of your thinking. And since your feelings are a record of previous experiences, your thinking in the past, and by quantum law, you create more of the past. Bottom line, most of us live in the past and resist living in a new future. Why? The body is so habituated to memorizing the chemical records of our past experiences that it grows attached to these emotions. In a very real sense, we become addicted to those familiar feelings. So when we want to look to the future and dream of new vistas and bold landscapes and are not too, distant reality, the body whose currency is feelings, resists the sudden change in direction. Accomplishing this faces the great labor of personal change. So many people struggle to create a new destiny, but find themselves unable to overcome the past memory of who they feel they are. Even if we crave unknown adventures and dream of new possibilities ahead in the future, we seem to be compelled to revisit the past. Feelings and emotions are not bad. They are the end products of experience. But if we always relive the same ones, we can't embrace any new experiences. Have you known people who always seem to talk about the good old days? What they're really saying is, nothing new is happening in my life to stimulate my feelings. Therefore, I'll have to reaffirm myself from some glorious moments in the past. If we believe that our thoughts have something to do with our destiny, then as creators, most of us are only going in circles.
You got to go out into life and try it out. Okay, I've changed my internal state. You could have a great meditation. You can connect, your heart could open. This happened to me. You could open your heart, you'd be amazing. You feel like the day is invincible. And you get up, and then the rest of your day, you're unconscious, the 15 hours of your day. So you're going to weigh 1 hour of being in a different state of being against 15 hours of you being unhappy and rushing and in a program. So then, how many times do we have to forget until we stop forgetting and start remembering? That's called change. How many times do we have to go unconscious to the point where we no longer go unconscious and we stay conscious? That's the moment of change. Now, if you're truly out of the bleachers and you're on the playing field, and this happens to a lot of people in our work, they say, you know, I really believe that this is the truth. I really believe that you could heal yourself. I really believe you could change your life. I've seen the testimonials. I just never believed that it could happen to me. Now, this is a big moment. Now you're really stepping on the playing field. So a person who starts doing their work, they're not interested in healing. The person who's truly interested in this work, they understand that the only way they can heal is that they have to change. They're not saying, I'm going to wait for my wealth or my healing to happen in order for me to feel grateful and be joyful in life. They're saying, if I feel grateful, my healing's going to begin, right? If I feel more whole, then there should be some change in my gene expression. So they've studied the content, they've studied the information, and now it becomes extremely practical. So they may have a great meditation, and we've seen this happen to many people. They sleep better, they have less pain, they have more energy, but their blood values never change. Now, they don't say, oh, I feel better, but I'm failing, this doesn't work. They say, what is it about me
that's stopping this from completely healing. Okay, how am I in my waking day? The moment you begin to ask that question, you turn on the frontal lobe, and the frontal lobe is the seat of your conscience. Now, the moment you start looking at the end of your day, how did I do? This is such an important question. How did I do today? Did I fall from grace? When did I lose it? And who did I lose it with? If I had another opportunity, how would I do it differently? They'll tell you, I've seen them stand on the stage and tell their story and say, I had to start really watching myself in my life. How I was emotionally responding to my ex, how I was emotionally responding to my financial problems. I had to really, really pay attention to that. And that takes an enormous amount of energy and an enormous amount of awareness to stop the program, right? So you forget and you go, damn, I went unconscious there. Now, you didn't lose, you didn't fail. You just became conscious. Now, if you keep becoming so conscious of your unconscious states, you're outside the program. You're only in the program when you're unconscious. The moment you're conscious, you can objectify your subjective self. So you can see yourself through the eyes of someone else. So the learning process comes from the mistake. The brain learns by mistakes and surprises. I've made enough of them in my life. It's just whether you're going to do it again. You want to do it again, you're back in the habit, back in the routine. If you say, this is it, the next time that happens, I am not going to do that. Not for anybody else, but because those emotions actually, my response to that person or that circumstance is actually weakening the organism. Is that person, that circumstance worth it? So then it's evolution. It's evolution. The challenge then has to be met with a greater level of mind.